Monday Night Football in the books, one more down. The 49ers, the Cardinals. 49ers drum the Cardinals so bad. We think the 49ers maybe are contenders, and we got to pour one out for the Crimson Birds over there in the desert. Plus, we have, as always on Tuesday, our Yike of the Week on the Locked On NFL podcast.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Why, hello there, football fans. Welcome to the Locked On NFL podcast. I am Luke Braun and Luke Braun NFL here with Ross Jackson and Ross Jackson. We are your Tuesday hosts for the Locked On NFL podcast. Today's episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy, just you against the house. Pick 2 to 5 of your favorite players, whether they'll do better or worse than their PrizePicks projection. If you're right, you can win up to 10 times your money, and first-time signups can get a 100% match up to $100 by using promo code LOCKEDON at prizepicks.com or on the PrizePicks app. Thank you so much for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day. And we are here first off to talk about perhaps a little shakeup in the NFC standings, power rankings, or whatever you want to call it. In the world of whomst we are taking seriously, the 49ers have to be on there. They've been sitting in that 7 seed for like 2-3 weeks now, going, they're kind of flawed. Is Jimmy Garoppolo, like, he kind of lost his job and now he has it back, and they won like a 19-16 crapfest game last week, and what's kind of going on here, and is Christian McCaffrey really going to unlock? Well, they just unleashed hell and fury on the Arizona Cardinals. Everybody got involved. 2 touchdowns for George Kittle, over 100 scrimmage yards for Christian McCaffrey, breakaway touchdown for Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk got in there. This was the 49ers the way they are supposed to look. And so, to you, Ross, I pose the question. Are they NFC Super Bowl contenders?
The San Francisco 49ers are NFC Super Bowl contenders. They have to be. The amount of weapons that they have over on the offensive side at this point, like you kind of just mentioned, you ran through the names, right? Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. You've got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk gets in the end zone twice in this game. You've seen all the different ways that they're able to kind of utilize all of these guys. What we saw tonight up against an Arizona Cardinals team that admittedly tends to step in its own way, get it its own way, step on its own feet. It was a Colt McCoy
Step in its own something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. You saw me pivot away from that one a little bit, right? Colt McCoy leading the way. No Kyler Murray. Like, I understand these things, right? Like, I get it and all. And, I think if you ask Alex Clancy over at Locked On Cardinals, we saw the Cardinals that everyone should be expecting to see on a daily basis. Right. But that cannot.
And we will get to them.
Yes, we will get to them here in a moment. But that cannot take away from just how dangerous the San Francisco 49ers are when it all works. And look, figuring it out here in week 11, not a bad spot to be, considering you just traded for Christian McCaffrey at the trade deadline. You have a healthy offense for the first time in Lord knows how long when it comes to San Francisco 49ers team. And then you saw all the ways they're able to do it. Luke, you put Christian McCaffrey on the outside, you could put Deebo Samuel in the backfield, and nobody knows.
Slants.
Nobody knows what to do. What do you do? My God, imagine to be able to take Christian McCaffrey emotionally. I mean, you see this sometimes, I'm sure, with Dalvin Cook as well, right? Like, you take these guys, you motion them to the outside, these versatile running backs, motion them to the outside, the linebacker follows them out. You've got mismatches for days when you do stuff like that. Like, it's going to be tough.
Fullback CJ Ham catching slants. That's a thing. Okay, who's the worst cover person on the Saints? Like, is it a linebacker? Is it who is the person you would least want a coverage play to come down to on the Saints?
I think probably right now, as it is, it would probably be Chris Harris Jr., the slot corner who,
Chris Harris Jr. 1v1 on Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, hate that idea. And we're probably going to see it next weekend.
Who is in the back 7? So we're not talking D-line, but back 7. Who's the biggest run liability?
Probably, I think right now, maybe Tyrann Mathieu. Size, tackling, those things have been an issue.
Okay, Tyrann Mathieu, Oklahoma drill on Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, 100%.
And these are the subversions.
Yes, right. That's the thing. Like, that's just the mix, like the stuff that they can mix in. On the outside, you're usually still having to deal with Brandon Ayuk, who is our yards after catch monster. Deebo Samuel is somebody you can still get to in the short and intermediate area who can pick up yards after catch for you, pick up tough yards. And oh, by the way, there's also George Kittle, who looked like the world's like beefiest gazelle out on the field today. Like, if you had a gazelle and a lion and you put them together in a professional athlete, that was George Kittle tonight, because the guy is huge. He's unstoppable. You get the ball in his hands too, and then he can also make stuff happen for you after the catch. What do you do against these guys?
Right. And
you pressure Jimmy Garoppolo. That's it. Right?
Yes, pressure Jimmy Garoppolo and make him throw stupid interceptions over the middle, which has always been the key to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that'll be their undoing one more time. Like, that could happen. But here's the way I see it with them. It took them until November to kind of figure all this out, and they took some dumb losses in the meantime. They're 6-4. Like, you don't look at 6-4 and think like Super Bowl. But now they are in the lead in the NFC West. And really, to me, the thing that really scared me off of truly all the way buying into the 49ers was, well, if they can't catch the Seahawks and win that division, and that's still a big if, right? They could still lose a couple. So but if they can't win that division, now they got to go on the road and play on the road a whole bunch, and they'll be like a plucky, scary road team. But it won't be, you can't call the 6th seed a contender, right?
Right.
Call them the team you don't want to play, or dark horse or whatever. Kind of gets downgraded to dark horse. But if you put them in at the 3rd seed, shoot the 2 seed, now maybe one road game you got to play all the whole time. And that's a little bit scarier. And that means you can really see these 49ers, the height of their power. And if they can put together, consistently string together games that are like this one against Arizona, I say look out. I say they can go toe-to-toe with anybody in this league, and I actually think there's plenty of teams that can't go toe-to-toe with them.
Yeah, completely agree. And look, there's always going to be the greatest equalizer in the NFL, injuries. Christian McCaffrey, somebody that has dealt with injuries during his time. Deebo Samuel's getting worked on and off on the sideline all throughout this game and everything. We'll see what happens there. But if you have all of those pieces, and then we didn't even mention guys like Nick Bosa and
you didn't even talk about the defense. Jimmy Ward.
Right, Jimmy Ward, who was great tonight. Talanoa Hufanga, who's been awesome so far
Total
this
breakout,
season.
yeah.
Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers, inside linebackers in the NFL, over on the defensive side as well. So you get the play calling cooking, you get the defense making plays with a guy like DeMeco Ryans, who's going to be, a head coach conversation darling during the offseason. This is a team that's going to be very, very hard to meet up with. And as you mentioned, even harder to go and travel to and win if they put themselves in that situation come the playoffs.
Absolutely. Sure. Who blows out who is the 49ers kryptonite? Like, who do they play in the playoffs that they can't beat, Like the Eagles that probably be favored, probably have a home game, but you're not looking at that one like it's a sure thing.
Yeah. What about your stupid dumb Vikings?
Well, they can beat anyone, but they can lose to anyone.
Yeah.
So,
which is kind of the story of the NFC, honestly, right? Like, that's kind of the story of the NFC too, because that could be the San Francisco 49ers as well.
That could be the 49ers, and it has been the 49ers, right? Like, they lost to the Bears week 1. It happens.
Right. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But, hey, I'll tell you what. Like, you look at how exciting the Philadelphia Eagles have been so far this season, how exciting the Minnesota Vikings can be, how exciting this San Francisco 49ers team can be, and all of a sudden the NFC is starting to shake out with some interesting teams that are going to have
there's
some
an NFC
fun
South
to watch in the postseason. And there's also an NFC South that will have some type of presence by default, unfortunately. If it were my choice, I'd say just put an extra NFC North team in there. But we'll talk about that extra NFC North team in a little bit as we get to looking at pouring them out, because that's what we're going to get to next. Whose season is over and who might be rising from the dead? Luke, it could happen. There's a team out there that could win out and shock the entire world.
Okay.
It's always that part of the season, right? Like, oh, well, if they win out,
if they get help.
Yeah. So we'll get to all of that. And trust me, it's not the team you think I am. Don't mind the plaques on the back of the wall if you're watching on YouTube. It ain't that team. It's a different one. So we'll get to that as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On NFL. Today's episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by our friends over at Turo, the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car that you want wherever you want it from a community of local hosts. Pretty cool stuff here. There's a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget. You're going to be able to find them in the US, the UK, Canada, and coming soon, to Australia, down under. Yeah, you're going to be taken care of as well. You can book a spacious SUV or minivan if you've got maybe like a family outing, or maybe you want a luxury car for a special event, a birthday, holiday, something like that. Maybe you're just looking for an affordable economy car to go from point A to point B, or you could do like our friends over at Locked On Mavs over on the NBA side. Locked On Mavericks host Isaac, they were going to a family trip, and they said, you know what? I want to try a Tesla. And so they just rented a Tesla. So you could try all of that out over at Turo. In fact, many Turo hosts will even bring your car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget about rental cars. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Daily fantasy made easy. Luke, I don't know about you. I'm not a big fan of like the usual daily fantasy. You got to set a lineup. First of all, you know me, man. I hate salary caps. I don't want salary caps in my fantasy football. Get that
Not
out
unless
of my
you can
face.
restructure their prices.
Right.
And
If I can't kick the
cap
can,
credits and
if I can't kick the can down the road to recycle the can, I don't want nothing to do with it. Give me PrizePicks instead, where all I have to do is use my football knowledge, my knowledge of matchups, my knowledge of scheme, in order to be able to simply pick whether or not 2 to 5 players are going to come in at more or less than their PrizePicks projections. You get those right, you're going up to 10 times your entry, and first-time users are going to be able to get a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app today and enter the promo code LOCKED ON. Then after that, you deposit $100, they'll match $100. You deposit $50, they'll match $50. It's real nice and simple. They'll get you all taken care of over at prizepicks.com. Just don't forget that promo code locked on to start playing daily fantasy football today and get that 100% instant deposit match of up to $100. Once again, it's prizepicks.com.
Once again, thank you so much for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Sports Today with Peter Bukowski.
Hey.
World Cup kicking off.
Yeah.
Probably talking about that, and not to mention everything going on in the NFL, NBA, NHL, and all around the wide world of sports. It is time to ring the ominous church bells and pour one out for the fallen, because we were hanging on to the Arizona Cardinals for a little bit. We were giving them hope. We were letting them do their thing.
Yep.
It is over. I'm sorry. Especially looking at the landscape of the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
It's crowded. There's probably 7 or 8 teams that deserve to be in the playoffs. The Cardinals are not in that list. And to break into that list, they would need some miracles. They would need some collapses. If you think about the Seahawks in the wild card,
Yep.
the way Geno Smith's playing, and then the 3 NFC East teams, Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, put the 49ers in there, and you have gotten 2 division winners and 3 wild card spots. And then the Vikings and whoever accidentally wins the NFC South. Somebody has to.
They're doing their best not to. To have no one do it.
Whoever's we're in the playoffs playing at home. There's your playoff picture for the NFC. For somebody else to break into it, we poured one out for the Rams for the same reason last week. For somebody else to break into it, they got to break into that group of teams. And at what did they fall to? 4-7?
Yes.
You got 7 losses now? You basically need to win out and just keep doing that.
No, not the team that we saw on Monday Night Football that got punched in the mouth and then punched in the mouth and then punched in the mouth again. I mean, that was rough to watch. But I think it's time to say goodnight to Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals, at least for this season. Now, if you listen to Alex Clancy,
we might be
Cardinals,
late.
Yeah, we might be late on this. We did give them a little bit of life, right? A little bit of extra life at this point or earlier on. But I think after you saw what happened here, I mean, there's no reason to look at this team and say, you know what, there's this redeeming quality that says they might. Because even if you had Kyler Murray, I don't know that he makes that much of a difference for you in this game. Now, is he better than Colt McCoy? 100%, right? You take Kyler Murray out of the equation, and then the Arizona Cardinals are one of the worst rushing teams in the NFL, though. And so outside of what you're not able to do with a James Conner, the cut of Eno Benjamin that I still don't quite understand, the inefficiencies in the passing. Rondale Moore is hurt. You get Greg Dortch out there still doing some nice things in that role, but you're still, struggling to get DeAndre Hopkins kind of on board so far this season. And things like that after missing the first 6 games. The defense is still giving up big plays. And a lot of just like self-inflicted wounds. It's hard to turn the tide, trust me, on a team that's beating themselves. So for me, I'm going to pour one out for the Arizona Cardinals. It's time. It's time. And like you said, we might be a little late.
It might be past time. But here's the next question: who is the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals in 2023?
I think it's still going to be Cliff Kingsbury. If I'm being honest, I think it's still going to be Cliff Kingsbury. But if you've been following along with Alex Clancy over at Locked In Cardinals, he's been saying it for a long time. It shouldn't be.
So following Alex, here's what I think happens. I'm taking a lot of these takes from him. I think Steve Keim stays because he has some Grimo Wormtongue-like hold on that organization. Mm-hmm. He knows where the bodies are buried for whatever reason.
Yeah, he's got photos or something.
Him. Yeah. So he stays. Cliff Kingsbury falls on the grenade. Mm-hmm. He goes down. But they go, look, we still love the idea of a young hotshot offensive mind. We just had the wrong one. So Kellen Moore, come on down. And let's build something for Kyler Murray.
Very interesting. You feel like they could be more successful in that environment with Kellen Moore?
But I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
I won't like it, but I think that's what they'll do. But I do think Steve Keim sticks around. I think it just seems like he's going to win the politics battle. I don't think he should stick around. Mm-hmm. The way the Arizona Cardinals have been built has been kind of nonsense. I could see that they were going for something unique. It hasn't worked. It's time to try a new path. And I don't really see Steve Keim as the guy who's willing to be like, all right, I was wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't know if they do move on from Cliff Kingsbury, because that's kind of Steve Keim having to admit that he was wrong.
Maybe, but
but you can make the sacrificial lamb.
Years.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like you can do that and kind of have it fall back on Cliff Kingsbury, right?
Right. He's the scapegoat. Lump every problem and say he was the guy, and then go get the new young hotshot. It's exactly what the Vikings did. They were like, yeah, that Mike Zimmer dude, he was the problem. Let's just bring in Mr. Kumbaya and let's have a better culture, and that's the whole deal. And that we can sell tickets that way, right?
Yeah, it hasn't not worked.
Yeah, but we have another thing to talk about.
I got a team, man, that I think.
Are we resurrecting?
I think we might need to resurrect him for a second. How do you unpour one out for a team, I guess, but.
I don't think we can because the point of pouring one out is like we planted our flag.
Said goodbye. We said goodbye.
We said goodbye.
Right. You're
but
right. Okay.
we can discuss, will we be owned on this? Because we might be screwed. We're not going to unpour one out. We're not cowards here, all right? We'll stand by our takes.
Yeah.
But we screwed with the Kitties?
Yeah. The Detroit Lions, man. Dan Campbell.
Somebody thought we were about to talk about the Bengals. And I hope that person's very disappointed.
That's a good point. No, I mean,
that's one we might legit get owned on.
Yeah, I'm okay with that one though. I'll take that one.
Fair enough.
But this would be the team that I don't want to be wrong about. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to count out the Detroit Lions and all of a sudden the Detroit Lions be in the playoffs. Like that looks worse to me. You know what I mean? Than predicting the Super Bowl hangover and all those other things. But for me, man, like I'm just curious. I'm curious about these Detroit Lions. They would have to win out, right? And that would put them in a situation where they're 11-7. They still have the Bills on the schedule, for instance. We were kind of talking about that before we came up here. If that happens, they lose that game, they can still go 10-6, I guess. But like, it's going to be really interesting just to watch this team because they're so rejuvenated, they're so recharged, and Jamison Williams coming off of injured reserve, or at least the designated to return for injured reserve. So the practice window is open for the next 3 weeks. That's one of the most electrifying college football players that we have seen in a while. now getting an opportunity to potentially hit the NFL field. I'm so excited for him. And maybe that's what it is that has me feeling them. But I just love what the Detroit Lions are doing. I love, I got a lot of love for Dan Campbell, for Aaron Glenn, these guys that used to be like Saints assistants and stuff like that. Like so I got a soft spot for that, I guess. But Mark Brunell, I mean, come on, like just a cool group of cats. Yeah, Mark Brunell is like one of the assistant coaches in Detroit. No, I'm serious. He was on Hard Knocks and everything.
Oh man.
But like, I don't know, man. I'm curious about these Detroit. They have piqued my interest. Let's say it that way. They have piqued my interest. And that is a team that I would like welcome being wrong about if somehow they shock the world. That's all.
Look, weirder things have happened, but no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
They
I'm
have.
hopeful.
Sorry, they're at 4-7 or
4-6.
4-6. Okay. Oh, and they would be at 4-7 unless they beat the Bills on Thanksgiving, which would be a lot. Then they have a Jaguars game. All right, we'll say they win that one. Then they got to play the Vikings.
Okay.
And then they got to go to New York and play the Jets. Tough defense there, even though Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, a lot of stuff going wrong there. That's also a month from now. They'll probably have that figured out.
Yep, we'll get
Panthers,
to that in a
second. We can give them that one. Then they host the Bears. We can give them that one. But here's the deal. So if they upset the Bills and the Vikings, and they win all the other ones they were supposed to, and they don't Lions that up, this would probably come down to a Week 18 game in Lambeau. Do you know where the worst things happen to Detroit?
In Lambeau.
This feels like, if anything, it's setting up for a late season surge. Oh my God, we might actually make the playoffs, only to get face mask Hail Married by Aaron Rodgers one last time before he rides off into the sunset to do peyote in the woods. That's what this is. So I'm not pouring one out for the Lions. I'm sorry. That's too many things.
That's fair.
Unlike the 49ers, because I do agree, like the Lions are figuring some stuff out, and they will be a difficult opponent for all those teams. But unlike the 49ers, they didn't win enough on the way.
Yeah.
49ers don't need to win out to do this.
Yep.
But the Lions do.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna sit over here in my happy place and just dream about what could have been with the Detroit Lions had they just gotten a couple of earlier wins. Darn Detroit. All right, coming up next, we're going to take a look at our biggest yike of the week. What was the biggest thing that went wrong in the NFL in Week 11? From Luke's perspective, from my perspective, we'll give you ours. We already kind of hinted towards mine. There's a quarterback controversy a brewing where there doesn't need to be one. We'll break all that down as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On NFL. If you're somebody that loves, though, to get involved in some of the betting odds around the world of sports, we got just a thing for you. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. Whether you're somebody that looks for odds, lines, props, spreads, things like that you're looking for on the NFL side, maybe you're even looking at things like football futures, stuff like that for players and end-of-year awards, maybe even looking at coaching odds, things like that. You can find all that over at BetOnline. Not into betting on the NFL? No big deal. You can check out the NBA, the NHL. There's boxing, there's combat sports, there's esports as well. There's even auto racing, a whole bunch of stuff that you can get in on. And then, of course, you've got the World Cup underway as well, which has a lot of different, like, interesting, fun kind of props in addition to, like, the usual betting stuff that you would find in those soccer matches or those football matches, depending upon where you're listening. Make sure you go and check them out. You can find them on your desktop, your laptop, or on your mobile device. Heading over to BetOnline, your number one source for all sports wagering needs. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Let us move on to what's becoming one of my favorite parts of the week.
I'm loving it.
The weekly yike.
Yike.
Just one. It's something that made you say yike.
Yike. Should I go first?
Go first, because you've got one.
Mine is...
I have to think very hard.
It's okay. I can do two if I need to. Mine is Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. Man, listen. The New York Jets. That's going to have to be like my catchphrase. I'm going to have to find some way to use that in every episode now. Man, listen. The New York Jets had everything going for them this season. I know that they're in the AFC East. They were going to live in the shadow of the Buffalo Bills throughout the entire season. I understand all that. I get all that. But let me tell you something. There was always something intriguing about this New York Jets team early on in the season. The rookie success with guys like Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, a couple of the best at their position in terms of their rookie year right now, or among the best in terms of their conversation at each position. These guys that were kind of like castaways from other teams that went to the Jets and then all of a sudden put together a defense that was stifling some of the teams that they were going up against, an offense that was led by even Breece Hall, who was a part of that conversation before his injury, the rookie running back that came in this season. And they were just finding ways to win. They were this gritty team with Robert Saleh leading the way at head coach, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden you get this fantastic defensive performance that Zach Wilson can't make good on because Luke, he completed 3 passes in the entire second half of the game. 3 passes. And then when asked after the game, do you feel like you wasted a good defensive performance? You know what he said, Luke? He said,
I'll pretend
no.
I don't.
He said no. Listen. Listen.
Get him.
I cannot sit there and look at a quarterback who completes 3 passes in the second half, wasting a defensive performance and having the nerve to go up and say, "No, it wasn't on me. That wasn't on me." That brought me back to the days to where like there was a couple of quarterbacks who were out there that were struggling, but in their mind they were just balling. They were just balling out, and it's like that's just not the reality of what happened in this game. So now you go from that to on Monday, Robert Saleh, the head coach, not committing to Zach Wilson as the starting quarterback moving forward.
He got benched. He's like, I'm not the problem, and he gets benched.
So you're very clearly the problem, Zach.
Joe Flacco's corpse.
And so who are you going to put out there if you're the Jets? Joe Flacco? Mike White?
Mike White might be the best shot. I don't know. They should probably not bench Zach Wilson. I hope that's just kind of a like, hey, buddy, on notice kind of thing. Heat that seat up a little.
Yeah, right. Just light the fire a little bit, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if the other guys are a better idea.
Right. You ain't got a better option, Robert. You ain't got a better option, Bob. Like, you ain't going nowhere with these guys. So for me, it's like you finally go out there as the New York Jets and not New York Jets it up. And right now, you're threatening to New York Jets it up. Don't do it. Yike. Don't do it.
Yike. All right, I got a yike for you.
I'm
sticking in the AFC with another team that maybe we kind of hoped we could see a little more out of in Denver in those throwback uniforms. Devontae Adams scores a walk-off overtime touchdown, which, by the way, lol, get wrecked Aaron Rodgers. Let's just drink that in real quick. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers is throwing to like Instagram users and losing to the Titans. I'm sure that doesn't bother him one bit. No. What's Jake Kumaro up to? But that's not my
yikes.
My yike goes to a player he's been so good this year, Patrick Surtain.
Oh,
he really one of the premier corners, but buddy,
man, he got cooked.
Did he get cooked?
Oh,
and it was not a misread. It wasn't a coverage bust. Sometimes you get the wrong assignment, you get yourself out of position. Like, oh my God, we miscommunicated. No, he thought that was a deep crosser. He thought that they were going to run like a Yankee kind of concept or something like that with Devontae Adams running a deep over. He attacked it really hard. He looked like maybe he was even gonna try to jump it.
Try
or
to
something.
jump the route.
There was clearly film study involved in that, which like makes it look worse. But honestly, like belies something that might calm you down if you're a Broncos fan a little bit. But yike, buddy.
Rough.
You were on the opposite hash when he caught that. Like you were. I haven't seen a a cook like that since the last time I watched Top Chef. Oof.
Oh, nice. Nice. Boom, roasted. Dude, I cannot, like, playing cornerback in the NFL.
It's impossible.
Impossible.
That's why
dude.
I'm being very charitable. And if Patrick Surtain ever sees this, know
Come
that
for
I
Luke.
get it. I
Come for Luke.
understand. All right, I get it.
Yeah, it's rough. And you're right.
You get a yike. We can move on.
Yeah. But you're so right too about the film study part of that is that like there is something about lining up there, seeing the 2x2 or the 3x1, whatever it is, seeing that those two guys did something that eliminates half of what you're looking for. You have an option to where it's either going to be this or this, and you think it's going to be this, and it ends up being that. And just what you can't do anything about it. All you can do is commit to the choice and commit to the bit.
If you're gonna lose, like if you're gonna be wrong, be wrong. Like if you're gonna hesitate, you're wrong all the time, right? So if you're gonna be
Yes,
wrong, like,
100%.
If you're wrong, you're wrong. Go get it. Like there's a lot of stuff in there. Like if you're actually in the DB room, you're going, all right, what did you see? Okay, like we want, like that was a smart thing he got punished for doing.
Yeah.
But you still got to get a yike, man. You can't end up that far away from the guy, from Devontae Adams of all people.
Right.
You can't be that far from Devontae Adams.
Yike.
And get cooked that bad and not get a yike or two throughout the week. All right.
We got you, PS2. Man, what a fun week in the NFL it was. We saw Cordero Patterson become the record holder for like best kick returner in NFL history at this point, if he wasn't already. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. A couple of big storylines to continue to follow throughout the week. Kyle Pitts going to injured reserve for the Atlanta Falcons just when they started to utilize him in the red zone, which stinks for them. And then you have day-to-day stuff going on with Justin Fields, the Chicago Bears. So lots of storylines to continue to follow. Yeah, oh no. They just got Chase Claypool too.
Yeah, gosh, the all-in season didn't work.
But very, very eventful and fun weekend in the NFL for sure. And if you want to keep up with all of it every step of the way, you found the place to do it. It's right here with the Locked On NFL podcast. Appreciate you very much for making us your first listen of the day every day. Coming up in tomorrow's episode, you're going to get power rankings as well as just a ton of entertainment from James Rapine and Tony Wiggins. Just doesn't get any better than those two guys chopping it up. So you'll want to tune in for all that as well as all of the other
Uncle vibes.
Yes, big time Uncle vibes. I love it.
Hashtag Uncle that won't Wednesdays. Let you win that won't let you win at the dice game kind of vibe.
Oh, I think Tony's going to love that. Tony's going to love that.
I was actually talking about James with both of them. Yeah.
I know, but he's going to love that one for sure. So definitely want to tune in for those guys. It's a lot of fun on Wednesdays. It's a lot of fun here every Monday through Friday on the Locked On NFL podcast. And, of course, it's also a lot of fun every Monday through Friday over on Locked On Sports Today. Make sure you go and check them out. Get all the biggest news around the world of sports. Take of the day, all the good stuff from the local experts in the way that only Locked On can provide. Find it in the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. It's Luke Braun. I'm Ross Jackson. We'll see you here again here soon on the Locked On NFL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.